PayPal has been online for now more than 16 years, starting as a Californian startup and now being present in more than 190 countries. So we have been facing a lot of, I would say, challenges, including criminal and security challenges. We are also, at least in Europe, regulated as a bank, which means that we know what it means to be strongly constrained. And this is not something that prevented us to keep growing in Europe. So there are ways to mix both sides, being an internet startup and being regulated. However, we would like to share a few lessons we learned from all these years, facing in particular transnational threats. And this leads to a couple of conclusions around the fact that it's time probably to stop, for instance, opposing security and convenience. That's something we hear very often. You have to choose. We would like to go beyond. It's a tough challenge, but we are working on it, and that's something we want to share. So the first point is what's behind. Behind is the fact that now we are facing very complex infrastructures, complex patterns of usage of technologies, and also complex threats. So we can't come with a simple and nice, shiny solution. We have to work also with complex solutions, which means very often costs. So in terms of infrastructure, it has been noticed by the previous speakers. We are beyond the old model of one PC at home for doing internet activities. Now we have cars with embedded servers. We have appliances such as fridges that are also connected. Home automation is growing very fast. We see coming also mesh technologies for allowing, I would say, transparent access to internet. All this means that it will be more and more difficult to secure things with a, I would say, rigid framework. In parallel, usages are evolving very quickly. We see our users now asking for paying anytime, anywhere, anyhow. So it means that they want to pay from any connected tool they would have available where they are shopping. So it means that for a device, we'll very often have many customers. And this has a consequence on our, for instance, security framework and fraud prevention frameworks. We can't just rely on simple behavioral models. And we have to think, in any case, through multi-layered defense system. So it's complex, and it has to evolve as fast as the technology and usages are evolving. So that's a pretty difficult challenge. In parallel, we see the threats evolving also. They take advantage of, I think, two major characteristics of internet. The first one being remote, so you can attack any target wherever you want around the world. It's a little bit easier than with traditional crime, where you have to travel and let lots of, I would say, traces. Second thing is that it can be automated, it's digitized, and so it's opening the door for massive attacks and very also, I would say, sudden attacks. So the time frame is not the same as with traditional threats. It's very, very short. So it has been also explained by previously, this is harming the trust that people have in the overall internet ecosystem. And that's a problem because it's impacting not only their, I would say, activity as our customers, but it's impacting the growth in general. We could benefit from the development of these technologies. So that's, in our opinion, becoming a systemic issue. The second point is to keep in mind that when we deal with our customers, and that's the case for any web service, we only control what's inside our infrastructure. We don't control the assets that are between the customer systems and our systems. And so we have to assume that they are secure. And beyond, I would say, the goodwill of the owners of these assets, there is simply the, I would say, strength, the inherent strength of the protocols below. And unluckily, internet protocols initially were designed more for survivability than for robust security. So even if our internet infrastructure is properly secured, we'll still have lots of unknowns in order to deliver a secure experience to our customers. And so that led a few years ago, around 2007, I would say, our management to push for a more, I would say, a broader security strategy that will encompass also ecosystem resilience. And so we have been since then investing on our own on supporting solutions that will strengthen, make more robust this ecosystem. And very often it's through choosing and supporting the design or early implementation of protocols that will make more robust the existing standards. We believe that this has to be done through rather open standards, because then as many stakeholders as possible can implement them as quickly as possible, and then the cost of criminal operations, if I can say so, becomes higher. And as a result, we may see a shift of criminal activities to other domains, which can be policed more effectively by existing law enforcement agencies. One of the analogies we use is the fact that if we reach a sufficient level of robustness, enough stakeholders have implemented more robust protocols, then it's like vaccination. The whole herd is protected. And so that's pretty important. As examples, I could give what we did with EV certificates. We were an early adopter, or DNSSEC. We did work also with DKIM, SPF. We did promote DMARC. We are still working a lot on improving certificates governance. We did add also some people working on drafting HSTS. I mean, this has been a fairly significant effort in the last 7 years. So all this is fairly theoretical. I could give a couple of actual examples. The first one is DMARC. So what led to DMARC? We had an issue which was how to reduce the volume of phishing attempts against customers. Because even if customers are able to spot a phishing email as being a phishing email, that's increasing their concern about the overall security of internet. So even if we are not targeted, even if other companies are targeted, that's a problem for us. And so our goal was to reach a stage where they would see as less phishing emails as possible. And one of the ways to do so is to use, obviously, email authentication, but that's not in the design of SMTP. So we did start to implement DKIM, which was one way to sign our emails. We also implemented SPF so that we could announce which were our sending servers. And we did work on large scale with Yahoo and Gmail on this. And we saw that was beneficial for the users that were using this type of email providers. Problem, it's not scalable. We have to have an agreement with each email provider, and we won't spend years signing all these bilateral agreements, and that will not be scalable for other companies either. So 3 years ago, we started to work again with the same group on defining a protocol in order to announce what we want as policy around our valid and invalid emails. Invalid being emails sent on behalf of PayPal.com by someone else, and so the signature is invalid, obviously, because they can't sign on our behalf. And so that led to DMARC, and in early 2013, we saw, I would say, a growing adoption, a fast-growing adoption in the US, until last summer when we reached around a little bit more than 80% of the email providers in the US being compliant with DMARC, and this had almost instantaneous effect on the direct phishing attempts. And unluckily, this moved to Europe, where email providers are not as, I would say, compliant with this protocol. And so it was for us an actual example of how strengthening the ecosystem could have a direct impact on the safety of the users. Time is passing, so I would quote also quickly the Fast Identity Online Alliance, with which we are working on developing also a protocol that could allow more scalable strong authentication. Because the problem right now with strong authentication is that if each service is providing you with a token, soon you will need a separate bag just to carry all the tokens for authentifying online. And the user experience is just very poor. So that's typically the kind of situation where it's economically not very viable. It's generating a lot of friction, so it's basically opposing convenience versus security. And it may not be as strong as we believed some years ago, because we already see a lot of quite mature malware tools that are allowing to bypass this type of protection. And so that's why we have been looking for a way to have a more scalable and adaptive authentication framework that could allow services to propose a step-up authentication adapted to the context in which the transaction is occurring. Because again, we are not limited anymore to just the PC at home. Things are happening everywhere. We all have now a smartphone with which we can do lots of things. And that's something that's ongoing right now. It's an effort we are starting to implement, and so it's more, I would say, something we will try to advocate for in the coming years. So these points were just to show that with or without regulations, I mean, again, I remind that we are already regulated as a bank, so heavily regulated, but that's not these regulations that asked us to implement all these protocols or to invest in these protocols. That's something we did because we believe that it's necessary to adapt the type of security to the technological context, how it's evolving, and that's something that goes very fast. So very often, regulation, if they are too prescriptive, will be, I would say, one train later. And so we are more interested in outcomes. Regulation can tell us what's the stage where we want to be in terms, for instance, of security of our users. We are more concerned when it starts to tell us what technology we have to use in order to reach there. Thank you.